My name is Felicia Rose, and this is the Scars and Stillness podcast. Thanks for coming back and hanging out with me for episode 13. Really quick, I do want to apologize. As mentioned yesterday, I put out like a quick little thing to, let everyone know that the video was delayed and the episode was delayed for until today. Um, as most of you know, if you follow my other socials, that this month especially has been pretty rough for me and my family. I I'm in the medical field and I primarily work nights, but this month has been all day shifts. I'm talking me getting up 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So it's been not only rough for me, my family, especially my eldest daughter who is in homeschooling. It's been kind of thrown off everyone's schedule. So yeah, yesterday when I came home from work, just like having to still be a mom and a caretaker, uh, it got away. The day got away from me, and I just didn't have time. So I thank you so much for being here and supporting me, and all the feedback that I've been getting from everyone has just been, it's been mind-blowing, honestly. So, um, I I'm very grateful, very grateful. Anyways, just kinda moving into it. For those of you who are tuning in today that are new or just, people who need a reminder, this is Scars and Stillness podcast. I created the brand Scars and Stillness, kind of as a place for people to go that's safe, a safe place to go where we talk about trauma, but we also talk about transformation and the truth about it. Some days are harder than others, and some days you feel really good. But with trauma, um, we do talk about some pretty sensitive topics. And so, if at any point you feel triggered, just make sure that you're checking in and taking care of yourself. So, kind of moving right into it, as most of you know who have been watching the podcast or listening on Spotify or even, following me on my socials and just kind of seeing them on there. I usually always have my laptop up. I usually always have my laptop up and I have bulletins of, each thing that I want to talk about. And I usually have a title for the episode. So that way, we have an idea of what we're talking about. But I was thinking about it and, I think that I think those episodes are super important because structure is really important to me, but I also think it's really important for me to just become like, just be real, you know? Like, sometimes just have episodes where I'm just, like, talking to you guys, talking to you about my life and what I'm currently going through, and, yeah. So uh, I've been getting some messages from people, which I think is really cool, and I hope you guys continue to do that. If I say something that means something to you, feel free to comment at any time, but if you would rather have it be a little bit more private or you wanna talk deeper about something, feel free to just send me a message and we can talk about it. Um, and so I don't really have, like, a general topic today. I just kinda wanted to jump on and, like, talk about life and kinda where I'm at, what I'm going through. And it kind of blends already together with some of the messages that I've gotten about questions that have been asked to me. So, I mean, it works out really well. Sorry, my nose itches. um, for an example, we've been working on forgiveness because that's what we've been talking about in therapy. We've been talking about forgiveness, and I had someone reach out to me who had asked me a question about forgiveness, about like, well, what do you do in a situation where you feel like you're working really hard at forgiving a person, and you feel like you're moving forward and you're doing really well. And then it feels almost like they're going out of their way to create those problems in your life and make it almost impossible to forgive that person. So I definitely can relate to that right now. I feel like I have someone in my life that makes it very difficult for me. But that's kind of a part of what I was already going to talk about today. So a big thing that I've been dealing with lately in my life is like conviction. So as probably all of you at this point know, I'm a Christian. I'm very faith based, and my whole life I've always had a relationship with God. But I felt led. I don't know, a couple months ago, like really, really, I felt really led to want to have a deeper connected relationship with God. Like I didn't want to be a lukewarm Christian anymore. I wanted to be like all in. He's number 1, in my life and everything else second. And so I started being like real gung ho about my faith and really putting him number 1 probably about a month and a half ago. Um And during that course of time, making God number 1 and just really, like, applying him every single day, not just on Sunday, but, like, he is, like, number 1 in my life always. I have been feeling convicted about things. For an example, like, um, the first thing that I felt convicted about was my music. People who know me know that I'm a huge music person. Um, I often speak through my music, like what I'm listening to. It's my nonverbal way of communicating. I've always done that. So a lot of times people are like, "Well, if you wanna know how she's feeling, listen to what she's listening to." Um, I've always really just had a respect for music. I've always had a love for music, and, um, I'm really big into rock. I love rock. I love metal. I've always been drawn to it. It's always been my thing. My nose is itching like crazy. Um, I literally came home and jumped right on jumped right on here to record the podcast because I was like, "I'm not gonna not do it again." And I feel like I'm still wearing a mask on my face. It's just really, like, bugging me. Anyways, so yeah, I have always been a huge music person, but the first thing I felt really convicted about was my music. I'd be listening to, like, a heavy metal song or whatever, and then, cuss words would happen, and I'd feel like this, like, ugh, like this tenseness in my stomach, like, ugh, like I felt wrong almost to have that, and so I could feel that pull between my spiritual growth and, like, kinda my flesh, you know? And so I'd kinda left it alone for a while, and I thought about it, wrote about it, prayed about it, and then I realized, like, "Oh, okay." Like, God puts convictions on our spirits, like for things and feelings that no longer serve us. But even if you're not a spiritual person, I mean, that happens in life anyway. Like you'll have these feelings inside yourself, like this particular thing no longer fits who you are or where you're going in your life. And that's kind of how I felt about my music. So the first thing that I had to do, I went completely through my playlist and I got rid of absolutely everything and anything that I felt like no longer fit. Um, my road, the road that I'm on now in my life, and I was really, um, I was really happy when my family was the same way. You know, they they decided they didn't wanna be lukewarm Christians anymore either, and, like, my daughters are really, like, excited to learn more about God and have that connection with him, and my partner and I, we got them this Bible that's tailored to their age, and, it helps them with, like, attitude and, you know, friendship and, doing good and just things like that. That is awesome. It's good for them, and so it's been really cool to kinda see their transformation and growing stronger and with God, and my partner's always been really into rap and stuff like that, and a lot of his music was kind of like, a little borderline, like, "Oh, not so good." But, yeah, it was really cool to see my family even had went through their playlists and kind of stopped listening to the music they were listening to, and, my guy, he actually ended up finding all alternative music, like, he found, Christian rappers that are really awesome, and the music is still exactly what he likes, except for they're rapping positivity, which is great, and the kids, same thing. My daughter really my eldest daughter really liked a couple of particular pop artists, and after she started getting closer to God, it was the same thing where she was like, "Mom, I feel weird, like, I feel weird listening to this. I just feel like I'm doing something wrong." And I told her, like, we have convictions sometimes that are put on us where we feel kinda torn about things, and that's usually God trying to kind of gently tell us, like, "This is no longer serving you." Um, so, yeah, so music was the first thing, and I've noticed, like, as time goes on, I've been getting those feelings about a lot of things. So, kinda moving into it, if you guys are wondering, like, "Okay, well, what's that have to do with what people messaged you about?" Um, as mentioned, in therapy, we were working on forgiveness and, healthy relationships and what that looks like to us, and trust. Trust is always huge, but a couple of weeks ago and this week, we've been working on, um, forgiveness has been a huge thing, and I had mentioned in one of our last episodes that forgiveness looks different to everybody. We both had a different answer of what that looked like to us, but yeah, so pertaining to that question, that I had gotten messaged about how, you know, if you feel like you're trying really hard you're forgiving them, you're asking God to bless them, or removing that from you. You want freedom from your past and you want to have a free future and you're just trying really hard to forgive them, but you feel like every time you forgive them, something happens and it just, you know what I mean? I'm literally currently going through that. I'm currently going through that where I feel like I've been trying really hard to think about every person in my life who's betrayed me or hurt me or wronged me or talked down to me or bad about me or, you know, put shame on my name in any format, any form of betrayal or hurt that it caused me in my life in any way. I've been trying to like lay it at God's feet, give it to him. You know, I forgive them, you know, and I forgive them. I forgive myself for feeling and acting the way that I did towards them, you know, things like that. So I have been trying really hard to forgive people. But then I have this convicting feeling about some things. For an example, I have always been I think God made me with a little extra sass because I've never been a very patient person. I've never had a lot of tolerance to people who are bullies. I've always been an advocate for people who can't speak for themselves or, you know, can't, you know, don't like confrontation or things like that. I've always been that type of person. And another thing is that I will go to war for my kids. You know, like I will literally go to war for my kids. And you know, some people I feel like they make it really hard. They make it really hard to have a forgiving attitude. You know what I mean? Like I have repeatedly like I forgive this person. I forgive them. I forgive, you know, all the things they've said about me or done, you know, done to me. I forgive them. And then when I hear things like from my kids or something about, you know, like just like a person like being like a borderline bully to my children. Like you're a grown adult and you're gonna like pick apart my children? Like what kind of grown person is going to bully a child? You know what I mean? And so I have moments where I'm like the flesh version of myself, I wanna go confront that person. I wanna go tell them, like, "You are gonna keep my children's name out your mouth, and you're gonna respect my children, because I don't care what you think about me, because Lord knows that you're running your mouth about me constantly," right? Like, nothing new there, but when you get to a point where, like, your children like, my children are coming at me and they're telling me these things about this person and about, like, you know, they're, like, going through my social media, looking through my stuff, and making comments about what my kids look like or haircuts that they've had and how they're disgusting or ugly or embarrassing, like, shame on you. What's really ugly is that you're a grown person and you feel better about yourself by putting down a 5-year-old. Like, that speaks volumes on your character, you know, and I tell my daughters all the time, like, it literally says in the Bible, like, beauty fades. What we need to be working on what's in here, because if you're beautiful, but you're an ugly person, you're ugly. It doesn't matter how pretty you are, you're ugly. And for me, when you're so miserable that you're telling a little kid nonsense about another little kid, like, about their sibling, like, that's disgusting. What's wrong with you? Like, grow up. And so, yeah, there's a part of me that's like, I get so frustrated because my human form, my flesh form, like, I want to go to that person and confront them and be like, "Yeah, no. Grow up. Shame on you. How dare you bully a child?" Like, way to set an example for our kids. Like, let's just bully a child when you're a grown person. Like, that's a good look, you know? But then I feel convicted where there's a part of me that's like, They're not even worth it." You know, they're not even worth it. I'm going to be the adult. I'm going to lead by example. I'm gonna show my children, the world and those people can be bullies all they want. They can think and feel whatever they want. They can pick people apart all they want. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to be judged. They're the ones that it's so sad that they feel like that they have to pick apart other people's lives because they are so miserable that they have all that work that they need to do. Instead of us being angry and feeling like we need to defend ourselves for that person and that person's opinion is completely irrelevant. Like who cares? Who cares what that person has to think because it's just sad. It's sad that they're doing that anyway. So instead of maybe confronting them, I pity them. That's sad, you know? And instead of me doing my human stuff, instead of confronting them and going to war for my kids, um, I'm just gonna lay it at God's feet. I'm gonna let God take care of it because I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna continue to grow and I'm gonna continue to thrive and be happy with my family, and that person's probably gonna just continue to be miserable. So, you know what I mean? Like, God can handle it. Let go, let God. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And it's really hard. Like, it's really hard because my first reaction when I hear things from my kids, when I hear, like new information from my kids, is I get mad. I get frustrated. I'm like, what is wrong with this person? Like, what is wrong with you? That's like my first thought. Of course, I'm mature and it's important for me to have boundaries with my children. And so I'm never saying any of this to my kids. It's awkward sometimes because that's part of the stuff I do have to say is that I feel like that's completely inappropriate that this person wanted to have those conversations with you when you're a child. You know what I mean? So I do a lot of redirection and a lot of like that's a grown up that's grown up stuff that we're not going to talk about, and shame on them for even trying to have a conversation with you about that when you're just a child. So I mean it's just, and then another thing with that is that, like as mentioned, me and my guy, like we grew up in a very different way, and it's been very important for us that we have a safe, stable, healthy, secure environment for ourselves and for our kids. I just had me and my daughters, we have like we call them our therapy talks. Excuse me, we call them our therapy talks. We have them at night before they go to bed, and I think it's great. I take a lot of pride in that, and I've always wanted to be a parent that my kids felt comfortable to talk to, just about whatever, about anything, and it's just a really good feeling for me that my girls feel safe and comfortable with me to talk about whatever. But yeah, I was just talking to the girls, because one of my daughters is she she's I mean they're both beautiful. They're both beautiful and amazing kids, but she's been through a lot, She's been through a lot, and it was important for me to cuz especially when like we don't get to see everybody all the time, and cuz like two of my kids I have full time, and then the other one we get her as much as we can, and it's hard when you co-parent, um and there's other people that are teaching a child, because just with some of the stories and stuff, like, yeah. Anyways, yeah, so it was important for me to teach my kids, like, this is what a safe relationship looks like. Um, it's not okay for a man to hit a woman. It's not okay for a woman to hit a man. Those are inappropriate relationships. Those are unsafe. Those are toxic. Those are not okay. That is not love. If you love someone, you don't hurt them. If you love someone, you don't hit them. Like that is not love. That's toxicity and it's not safe. And so you should be in a relationship with someone where you feel safe and you feel like you can talk to them about your feelings without worrying about getting hurt or having them be mean or destroy your stuff or say mean things. And it felt really good when the girls were like, "Yeah, you and dad never fight. You and dad don't ever call each other names." And that means a lot to us because we don't. We work really hard at having a grown up safe relationship. And also as parents, like, you model for your kids, and oftentimes you can tell what goes on in a child's household just by based off how the child acts. Really, I mean, kids are parrots, they copy their parents. It is our job as parents to teach them. So if you see a kid who's just screaming and yelling at the top of their lungs and acting like they're gonna be putting their hands on a person all the time, Wonder what goes on at home. Like, I wonder what goes on there, I wonder what goes on at home. Like, it's sad because or, like, you hear it a lot where people are like, "Well, that person's a little brat." No, not really. It's their parents that are failing them because it's our job as parents to teach our kids. I mean, really. But, yeah, so I've been dealing with some conviction, lately where I've been feeling convicted to make better choices with with forgiveness and like I'm going to continue to show up. I'm going to continue to forgive. I'm going to continue to let go of the things that I've heard that upset me and I'm going to give them to God. I'm going to let go. I'm going to focus on me and my life and being happy and healing and growing and my family and you can focus on being miserable and sad and just leave me alone. Stay away from me. I'm going to continue to do my thing. You continue to do your thing. Think and feel however you want to feel about me. Boom bam. You know? Um yeah. So, anyways, that's basically what I have to say about that. So, I mean, obviously, we have no control over another person. We can't, we can't. You can't make people act right. You can't make people like you. You can't make. You can forgive a person 100,000 million times. You don't even have to do anything to a person, and they've already made their mind up about you. Like if people decide they don't like you, who cares? You don't need that person in your life anyway. I mean, really, in my opinion, it's not about quantity. It's about quality. Like I have an amazing best friend who is also my sister. I don't need nobody. Like like I'm happy with my life. I'm content with my life. Things are fine. I really don't care. My big thing is my kids. When I feel like someone is directly targeting my child, like that's where I'm having a problem. And so I've been having to pray extra hard lately about that, letting go a little extra hard lately because for me, like I had mentioned in my flesh form, I'm just like I'm ready to go to war for my kids and my first thought is like what the heck, dude? Like, why are you gonna attack a 5-year-old? Like, come at what they look like, okay. It just doesn't make any sense. Um, anyways, moving on from that, I've also had people reach out to me about my books. Um, and so with that being said, that was kind of about, um, conviction too, a little bit. So um I've always been creative, like, literally my whole life, I've always been creative. I feel like God gave me a gift of creativity. And even as a little girl, I would write books, just like little short stories and stuff. And I'd been told for years that like I should write a book. And I was like, oh, I don't think so. What most people don't know is that the Dying Roses series was actually not the first books that I wrote. I wrote a book that I intended to be a series a long time ago. Took me 3 years to write because I hand wrote it, which was a huge mistake, and I'll never do that again. But it was actually called Soul Tide. And yeah, as mentioned, it took me 3 years. Took me 3 years to write. It was insane. And then I found out that when I went to try to publish it at, like, publishing houses, the book was insanely big. It was only, like, 25, 30 chapters, but it was 1,000 pages. 1,000 pages. Most big books, like, humongous books. Think of some of the biggest books you can think of, like, like, big chapter books. Big books are like 4 to 600 pages, which is actually a lot because standard books like these are anywhere between, 150, 350 pages. They're not gonna be 1,000, like me writing my one book that took me 3 years to write was actually writing 4 books, like, it was just nuts. But yeah, I kept getting that. I kept getting like the characters in the world that you built is beautiful, but the book is too big. You're gonna have to break it apart and work on it and, and send it back. And for me, that was like rejection. I was like, well, I failed and I shelved it. I was like, nope, I'm done. I obviously can't write books. And then I kept feeling that like conviction again and like inside myself where I was like, you need to go back to writing or you need to do this and that. And so instead of picking up Soul Tide again, I was like, whatever, dude, I'm gonna write a trauma informed book about, you know, life. And I started writing Dying Roses. Dying Roses, man, I'm pretty sure the first book took me like maybe 6 months to write, or less than that. Took me very little time. Um, And so with Dying Roses, I actually only planned on writing book 1 and book 2. I never had any plans on going further than that. So, book 1 took me, like, 6 months or less. Book 2 took probably same thing, about, like, 4 to 6 months to write, revise, and make sure it was ready and done. And then I had published book 1 and book 2. You know, they were already published, they were ready to go. And then I had actually got emails, like, asking me about, "Oh, can't wait for book 3 of your series." And I was like, "Um, there's not a book 3 of my series." Like, I didn't write a book 3. I had no plans on writing a book 3. So I kinda scrambled and, realized, like, "Oh, okay, so a book 3 is needed. Cool." I wrote the Aftermath, which is book 3 right there. Um Aftermath took me, like, literally, I'm not kidding you, maybe a month and a half. Like, I got it done. It was not a problem because I had already written 2 books of the series, you know, so it was, like, not an issue. I was like, "Cool, let's get it done." And so then the Aftermath got published, so I had Dying Roses, Dead Roses, and the Aftermath. I was like, "Man, I've got a whole book series that's published." And then I got an email. And then they had made a comment like, "Well, we need the dual, main character's perspective. We need his perspective for, in between books 1 and 2. Like, what happens to him? Where's his side of it?" So then I was like, "Okay." So that's where The Ashes of James came from, because it's book 1.5, so it's in between these 2 books of the co-main character, one of the main characters of the book, his perspective instead. So, yeah, it just kind of was something that happened over time, and then, now that now I have 4 books in a book series, and I've had people ask me like, "Man, like, is that's such a, huge accomplishment. How do you feel about that?" I feel like it's super exciting and horrifying at the same time, because, like, I've always been a writer, but it's one thing when it's in your journal, and it's another thing when it's public to the world, and, so it's a beautiful thing, but it's also, like, a horrifying thing at the same time, um but yeah, so my journey with writing, it was the same thing where it's like I would try to put it away, I would try to push it down, and I, kind of forget about it and go about my life, and then I would just get that conviction again, like, this is what you should be doing, and then eventually I just was like, "Okay, I hear it. I'm gonna do it." And I did, and then, same thing after I had actually, after I actually wrote Dying Roses and read it, and I sent it to, a couple of people that were closest to me in my life. Said, "Hey, you can read this if you want," and it was just so, like, personal and close to my heart. I wasn't sure if it was even something I wanted to publish, like, I didn't know if I wanted to go public with it. And so then that was my thing, was that the books were done, the books were written, but they were just sitting on my laptop. Like, I did nothing with them. I wasn't gonna turn them into a real book because I wasn't sure if that was something that I could do, like, what I mean? And then so I dealt with that for, like, a year. Like, the books had been done and written for a year, and I did nothing with them. And then it was actually when I was in therapy, I was working with my old therapist, and, me writing got brought up because I used to read her my journals, because that was one of the easiest ways for me to communicate, was I would just write down how I was feeling, and then I would read them. And she had made a comment about that. She was like, "Man, you're a good writer. Like, you should write a book." And I said, "Oh, I did, I wrote 2." And then we started talking about that, and she's like, "Man, you need to get that published, like, what are you doing?" And so it was through therapy that I was like, "I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna think about it anymore, I'm just gonna do it." And that's what I did. So, I mean, I published my books, I was super proud of myself. But, so for me, I feel like I've always had a gift of creativity, and I think that's great because it's just something that I've always loved to do. But I'm also social, and I'm also an introvert, and you know what I mean? I'm also just kind of in my world, and there's things that make me uncomfortable, like the outside world. The outside world freaks me out. Like, I do feel like sometimes I'm not built for a world like this. Like I was supposed to be from a different time, And so for me, that's a little bit overwhelming, but I still think it's important for me to just show up and tell my story, and again, like, if even if one person gets something out of this, like, that's everything for me, man. Like, that's everything for me. To have someone, like, join Scars and Stillness and be like, "Oh my gosh, at least she gets it. I'm not alone." That's the goal, you know? Um, and currently what I'm dealing with right now with convictions is, so at church, we're really happy with our church. Like, all the family really likes it. My eldest goes to, like, a youth group. She's really, really loving and doing just flourishing and doing amazing. Um, my youngest daughter, she likes to hang with me and dad. She doesn't really like to go to her own class yet. She's still, she still hangs out with me and dad. And on the weeks that we have her, the weekends that we have her, um, the time that we have our youngest daughter, our oldest daughter stays too. She'll stay in big people church with us too, just to hang out with her sister and like comfort her and stuff, which I love. I love that my eldest daughter and my youngest daughter are so close. It really just warms my heart, means a lot. And then, my son, he is, like, stoked all the time for Sunday school. He's like, before we even get there, he's like, "Woo, going to Sunday school, can't wait." And he's a little guy, he's 5, so, like, he's just pumped up about it, and he's excited to tell me all the stuff that he learns, but anyways, we are really happy in our church, and we had both made comments to each other, me and my partner had both made comments to each other that we wanted to be really involved in our church. Like, obviously, um, my schedule's been, like, a little ugh lately, and so it's been kinda hard to manage that, but once our routines get back to normal, we've been really wanting to, um, get really involved in our church. Unfortunately, my babe's not able to do his Bible studies because Bible studies are on Wednesday evenings, and, we have really busy Wednesdays, and so he's actually unavailable during those times. And so I was like, "Well, hopefully maybe they have, like, a mentor program at some point, and you can, hang out with somebody there, and then you guys could do your own, like, Bible study or something." But there's these cards that they give you at church, and they ask you, like, what you're interested in. And I know that, like, one of my kids is interested in youth group. I'm interested in women's Bible study and family Bible studies and, um, all kinds of stuff. My babe's, like, really into, like, helping them and, like, manly stuff, like, fixing things and stuff like that, and so, yeah, like, and our church always has, like, like, they have, like, a soup day where you can go and have a meal and spend time with people, or upcoming, they have a woman's workshop for, making Christmas decorations and getting to know women of faith, which I'm super excited about. I think that that will be something really great. The only thing is that I'm not sure if I'm gonna actually be able to go because I work a lot, and so I don't know if maybe I'll be scheduled to work overtime or not. That's coming up. That's in, like, a couple of weeks, but my whole point was I was looking at this box that they gave us, and, I was checking all these things, and then worship team is on there, and I was like, "Oh, man," and I thought about it for a little while and didn't check the box. And for those of you who don't know, um, as mentioned, I have always been creative. I felt like I was given the gift of creativity, and from a very early age, I was a huge singer, big time huge singer, and, like, I'm talking huge. I used to write my own songs when I was a kid. I would go into competitions. I would win competitions even. I was, like, gonna be Miss Oregon for a while, for, like, a pageant that we were doing when I was just a kid. Um, and at the end of that, like, if you would've won 1st place in that pageant, you would've, gotten signed by a label, and it was this huge thing. But yeah, music was my life. Like, if anyone asked me when I was a kid what I wanted to be when I was older, I wanted to be a singer. I was like a ride or die, music was my life type deal. Well, when my sister, um, got killed when I was, like, barely I'd just turned 13, I had felt like a part of me died. Felt like a part of me died with her, and then for whatever reason, that spark, that fire that was in me, where I was literally not afraid as a kid to sing in front of anybody. Anybody at any point in time could ask me to sing for them, and I would just belt it out and sing, like my life depended on it, and it was my thing. I loved it. And then I'm not really sure what happened. My sister died, and then I feel like a part of me went too, and I was just I feel like I kind of folded in on myself, and Crowds were scary, music was scary, and I stopped performing. I, backed out of that pageant. I decided not to go and not do it, not participate, and, um, stopped performing in contests, I actually stopped performing everywhere. I wouldn't even perform in front of my family. Um, it got to the point where, like, my family was begging me to do karaoke or begging me to sing with them in any way because I was just so closed off. But at home, like, I'm a musical person. So when I'm singing, you know, it just kind of happens. Like, I'll be cleaning the house and music just comes out of me, you know? Um, and I've noticed lately, like, the deeper I'm getting with my faith, the more musical I'm getting again. And the more I just wanna sing and sing and sing, and so you'll hear us, like, like, if you were here, you would hear us walking around the house all day, like, when we're here just singing and worshiping and doing our thing, and, I think that that's really cool, but, yeah, I was, like, looking at that card, and I felt, like, convicted. I was like, "Oh my gosh, why am I feeling like this right now?" Like, how crazy would it be if I was on the worship team, And then I left it unchecked because I was like, "I don't think I can't do that." But there was obviously a point in time that I thought I was never gonna publish books either, and then, that happened, so I've just been praying about it and, like, maybe in time I'll feel good enough to do that, but right now I'm not so sure. But, yeah, I just feel like sometimes in life we get that, like, the still small voice or that little feeling where, you feel torn about something, and whether you believe in God or not, I think that you should listen. I think that you're obviously feeling conflicted and you have like a conviction put on you for a reason. I think maybe it's worth investigating. But I don't really have a whole lot more today. Like I said, I didn't have anything planned. I just wanted to come on and talk to you guys and it's been a while and again, thank you guys so much for the understanding and I think what I'm planning on doing is that I'll have weeks where, we really talk about trauma and we talk about certain things and and then other weeks I'll just come and I'll be real and I'll talk to you about what I'm going through and what I'm dealing with and just being real and honest because that's the whole point, right? Like, yeah, we talk about trauma and the things that we've been through, but we also talk about transformation. We also talk about the truth. Like we talk about the rawness, the unfilteredness of life and life isn't always pretty and life isn't always perfect. In fact, life's never perfect. Perfection is a complete and total myth. I hate the word perfect because it's so made up and ridiculous. It's disgusting to me. There's only one thing that's perfect and it's not us. But anyways, again, if you guys get something out of this and you feel like you've connected to my words somehow, yeah, again, please feel free to like and subscribe or follow me on any of my socials. I know that it's really hard to see in this. The words are really small for some reason, but um, I have all my other links in my bio, and feel free to follow me or send me a comment or a message if you'd rather have it more private. And I really do hope that um, I hope you hear my words and you get it, you know what I mean? And and I hope that like helping at least one person because that's my goal with my brand is that, people can come together and you just feel not so alone. So, thank you guys again for being so awesome and understanding and I hope to hear from you guys and I hope to see you guys next week for episode 14. Until then, have a great rest of your week and a happy Thanksgiving. Not my favorite holiday by any means, but my eldest daughter, that's her holiday. Like she always says, "Mom, I was made for this," because it's hilarious. But yeah, that's her holiday. I'm a ride or die Christmas person. I Everything about Christmas just makes my heart happy. The connection with family and the lights and the meaning of Christmas for us, and it's a beautiful time for us, and so it just makes me happy. So people have asked me at work and stuff like, "What are my plans for Thanksgiving?" And obviously we have our dinner that we're gonna go do and stuff like that. I have to meal prep obviously because our life and our schedule doesn't stop because it's a holiday. I still have to meal prep for the family because now I have to meal prep on Sundays and Thursdays because my family likes to eat a lot of food. Um, but, yeah, so I still have to do that, still have to meal prep and stuff for the middle of the week. but I wanna decorate for Christmas. Me and my partner have, like, a rule where, like, I get to decorate after Thanksgiving, because if it were up to me, I would decorate before Halloween. Like, I would literally be like, "Cool, like, let's go." You know what I mean? Because I don't care about Halloween either, but I love Christmas. And so I really wanna decorate for Christmas tomorrow, so I might have to go, like, you know, get all of our Christmas stuff together and before our family dinner kind of make our house beautiful. But anyways, I hope you guys have a really safe, awesome, holiday with you and your loved ones, and if you don't have any loved ones or family that are close to you, just know that you're not alone, and you are loved, and you're worthy, and you're enough. Um, just stay safe.